Welcome to my observation reflections. I am a school nurse at Anthony Elementary and was lucky enough to be able to complete my observation hours at my own school with my own students. Observation was done with the goal of gaining real-time exposure to services provided by IEPs. My hours were a mixture of quiet observation with note-taking, engaging directly with students during classroom learning, and engaging with classroom staff. My first hours were completed in the Resource Specialist Program Classroom, which is a program that provides support and services to students with disabilities while still enabling them to access and participate in general education classrooms. My RSP observation was a valuable experience, largely because it gave me a real-time understanding of how it provides a service in the least restrictive environment. Most of the students I observed in RSP were actively engaged in learning. One student, however, had significant behavior challenges that prevented him from engaging with curriculum, and the teacher was unable to provide effective interventions. The student remained silent throughout his time in the RSP classroom, refusing to engage. The interaction between teacher and student devolved into a power struggle, and nothing productive was achieved. This was an interesting part of my observation hours, as it gave me a glimpse into the parts of teaching that I imagined to be the most discouraging. The remainder of my observation hours were completed in moderate to severe autism classrooms. I learned so much from these classrooms about autism in general, learning strategies, teaching concepts, behavior strategies, etc. I learned that the prevalence of autism is higher in California than in other states, and that in fact there are hubs of high incidence areas. I learned about behavior management strategies and implementing bribe versus motivation. That is, getting a child to stop doing an existing unwanted behavior by giving them what they want, which is a bribe, versus encouraging them to do a non-preferred activity without unwanted behavior by motivating them with a preferred activity they can do after task completion. This is referred to as first then. I learned about the connection between autism and apraxia and how that affects communication. I learned about different types of communication in students affected by communication in their autism, such as American Sign Language or electronic devices. I learned about the current preferred language around expressing a child's place on the autism spectrum, and how we no longer say high versus low functioning, but rather high versus low support needs, which I appreciated as being much more respectful language. I learned how students with low needs tend to have more of ADHD type poor executive functioning, like difficulty identifying what activity to focus on in order to start a new task, for example. They also tend to have overly rigid sense of justice and decreased ability to tolerate violations of their sense of justice, along with a decreased ability to determine when people are being unkind and laughing versus friendly and laughing. I observed a heavy focus on teaching imitation, first with gross movements, then toys, activities, etc., leading to imitation with speech and furthering that development, and helping with social mirroring and enhancing social cue reading and communication. Within centers, the students were able to work on transitions and boundaries, and individual goals were worked on at centers, and then generalized at circle time, working in their various unique goals and communication modalities to the circle time activities. I had wonderful experiences and learned so much in the other classrooms I visited as well. In fact, I learned so much that it's more than I can fit into a 5-minute video. However, observing in SPED settings, especially with my own students, was an experience that will surely enrich my service in the school setting. Thank you for facilitating this amazing and very educational experience.